on students if lives aren't in danger? Like
Yeah.
In that fashion?
Yeah, I'm not going to say in that fashion.
No, in that,
But,
dragging them. In that
and I'm
fashion.
not going to say anything
Okay.
that he did, I'm not going to comment on
Okay.
if that's proper at this point.
But what is the state
But
policy?
once she was placed under arrest, and she has either passive or active resistance, and the officer has certain levels of force that he can use. And that's a force continuum that starts from just verbal commands all the way up to lethal force. And you have a lot of things in between. And that's what these officers are trained to do. So yes, legally, could he put his hands on her and remove her from that classroom? Yes, he could do that. Once he placed her under arrest, then his responsibility at that point is to complete the arrest and remove her from the classroom. Now, again, what's in question is how we accomplish that.
You mentioned earlier the legislature had passed a bill, so if a phone is going off in the classroom, the student is refusing to put it away, that can be disturbing the class and lead to an arrest?
If the teacher determines that it's disturbing the class, yeah. And that's, I didn't pass that law.
Well, when did that law pass?
I don't know, but it's something that's been put on us, and I'll be one of the first ones to stand here and tell you that it's been abused in the past. It's been abused because it's so wide-ranging that a phone goes off. If that teacher determines that phone is disrupting the class and other students can't learn, she can have that student arrested for it. Should that happen? Not my opinion, no. You know, that is a lot of, that law allows for too much leeway in the eyes of the beholder, I think, when it comes to the teacher or maybe to administrator. And again, our goal as a school resource officers is to make sure that we don't criminalize these kids, that we keep them out of the criminal justice system. That's my direction to these school resource officers. That's why we've come up with these diversionary program. I don't want them arrested. If we can do anything and solve the issue without arresting them, then we've been successful. That's my goal for them each to do.
Is that specifically what started this string of events? Her phone went off and she wouldn't put it away?
I don't know if it actually went off. I think it was more like she was supposed to be doing something on a Chromebook, and instead of doing that, she was texting and using her phone. And the teacher wanted her to do her schoolwork on a Chromebook like the rest of the students were doing. And at that point, she became verbally disrespectful and continued to do what she wanted to do. And, you know, after repeated requests, teacher said, "I'll write you up, disciplinary note, and you need to leave the class and go to the office," and she refused. And he repeatedly asked her, and she refused. So administrator was called. Administrator said the same thing. You know, you need to leave the class. And again, she was disrespectful to the administrator, refused to leave. And at that point, the administrator told her, "If you do not leave, I'm going to call Deputy Fields." And she did, and the administrator did. Deputy Fields arrived, was instructed what was going on. He asked her to leave. She continued to not comply with those directions, and he was asked to remove her from the class. And from there on, the video cuts on.
Will you consider disciplinary actions that stop short of dismissal?
I am not going to right now discuss what the disciplinary action would be, but it will be appropriate.
Sheriff, I had the pleasure of encountering Mr. Fields, and he's a really big, solid, muscly guy. Was it necessary for him to have to use all that?
Well, and that's what we're going to look at. We're going to look at the disparity between his size, her size, how he used his brute force, and what he did. So I mean, we'll look. That's just part of the whole picture. Yeah, he's a big, strong guy. We have a lot of big deputies that are big and strong, and it's not so much the size as and muscles you have as what you do with them, and is it appropriate or not, and that's what we're looking at. Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain again what it means to be put on active duty? Because there were people who thought he should have been fired immediately following this video.
Well, that's not fair to fire somebody immediately when you have a snapshot of something. You have to do the investigation and get all the facts. Again, The one snapshot we saw, one video, showed one thing, then we get another video that shows her actually punching him. It would have been fair to make a decision, snap judgment just on that. That's not fair. That's not fair to anybody, and we're going to be fair, and we're going to do the right thing, but we're going to do it quickly, and that's what we're doing in this case.
Do you have a record of any and all complaints filed against the officer before this incident and the outcomes of those complaints?
I don't have them. We have them here, but again, I just got here. I haven't had time to even get that far yet.
Sheriff, do you know if the sheriff's department heard from any of the adults in that classroom prior to learning about the video? Like, do you know if any of the adults reached out to the department or the school district over a concern? The teacher or the assistant principal?
No, the teacher and assistant principal actually gave statements in support of the officer. They felt like the deputy acted appropriately and backed his actions.
Is it because the girl had issues in the past? I mean, I know that we can't talk a lot about the student, but what would trigger them to side with not find it disturbing as everybody else has, including yourself?
Because they were there. They saw things, they saw it as it actually occurred. And that's their feelings and that's their position. I can't answer why, but I just know what their statement said. And it also came when one of the students says the same thing, that the officer acted appropriately, that she was the one resisting arrest, and that it wasn't racial, and that so you have to look at the big picture, and that's what we're going to do.
Could you elaborate on what special training school resource officers get? Does it include things like de-escalation or specifically dealing with guns?
Yeah, we try to do verbal judo, do escalation on stuff, but also, the techniques when it comes to physical force. They're dealing with students. They're in a different environment every single day, and they're trained on how to deal with students. And one of the biggest things we train them is how to develop a positive relationship with our students. They're not there to be viewed as the big bad enforcer. We want them to be viewed as someone who's a friend to these students, who has a relationship and trust with them. And by and large, that's what we have with our school resource officers. I constantly hear that all the time. For many years, the only threats I ever got was from teachers and parents and students that they were going to do something to me if I ever took their school resource officer out of their school. They love them. You'll go to school for 12 years, and you may not know who your 5th grade math teacher was, but you'll always remember who your school resource officer was. You ask anybody who ever had one, they always know who that is.
Sheriff, I want to apologize in advance. This may be the most trending topic on Twitter, but I haven't seen this third video. Can you describe for us what happens in this third video, and at what point this young woman strikes the officer?
Well, some of our local media's got a hold of it, and I think they're publicizing it. It's on Facebook, and the media is publicizing it. It just shows that is when the officer puts his hands on her initially, she reaches up and she pops the officer with her fist. And
There's no question about that from what you saw.
No, I saw that video myself. There's no question about that. But again, does that justify the means? Does that justify what we did? And that's what I have to look at. All right, thank y'all.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that is a wrap on that press conference. Again, I'm going to play the video for you in case you haven't seen it.